now, and I think you can see somebody. Hello everyone, and so happy to see you here. I'm here with Sharada, my very loved teacher and a friend and dear sister, at the Space of Love Festival on Öland. So I really felt that it would be so beautiful to make an interview here while we're both here. I'm Julia, and I'm the coordinating the Be Woman online presence. And yeah, I'm so honored to make this interview with Sharada, because she has meant so much to so many women. And yeah, so she's the founder of the Be Woman project, and also a teacher of Vedanta, the knowledge of Vedanta. And yeah, with a very, very warm heart, she's guiding so many people to healing, their own healing process in the trainings. So I'm very honored to do this interview with you. Thank you. Thank you all for tuning in and watching with us.
We can check if the sound is.
Is the sound okay? If you can write, if you can hear us, so we know. We're outside, it's a little risky always if the sound will be heard. What do you think? I sound okay.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. Should we start with a little Saraswati prayer?
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah.
I would like to.
Okay.
Okay. You can join us also if you like. Aim Hrim Om Saraswatyai Namaha. Aim Hrim Om Saraswatyai Namaha. Aim Hrim Om Saraswatyai Namaha. So I'm so happy to sit here with you, and yeah, I'm so happy that you want to share a little bit about Sharada. Many of us who've been in the women's circles you're really open with you, and that is so beautiful. Well, what was the name? To see?
Just to see. Yeah. Sound low but good.
Okay.
To hear, so we can
Talk a little bit. That's good. Yeah. So who is Sharada, and who were you also before? What was your name before Sharada?
Yeah, my name. So thank you very much for doing the interview, and yeah, for all your love that you have poured into also the Be Woman project and the online presence, and just being on this journey together is so precious. It's very, very, very held and safe to be here with you and with you all. So my name Sharada was given by my teacher, and before that I am Jenny, Jenny was given by my dear mother and my father. They chose that name for me, Jenny. Yeah, and I love that name also.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. And when I'm at home, then my parents call me Jenny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When did you get the name, Sharada?
I think it was maybe now around 5 years ago, maybe 5-6 years. Yeah, when I came to Vedanta, to the teaching, and really embraced it with all my heart. And after a while, I asked my teacher for a name, and the first time in my life, I really wanted of another name. Like in my family or in the West, it's something very weird to change your name, and I also always felt that was a little bit weird. Why would you change your name? But now I can understand why. When you come to the teaching, it's like, you have like almost being born again, and you get to know who you are in essence, and then the name that you are given is a name that helps you to remind you of who you really are. Yeah. So the name is here to help you be committed to your growth, to your spiritual growth. And it has been it is like that. Yeah, the name, to have a name that reminds you of your goals in life. Yeah.
And who was this? Or you are still Jenny, of course, but when you were growing up in Switzerland, where you come from, how was that?
It was challenging. It was very challenging. I'm half Swiss. My mother is from Switzerland, and my father was from the Philippines. And being from two countries, growing up in Switzerland, in a little town called Davos in the mountains, where everybody knows each other, and it was challenging. Yeah, I had a hard time. Of course, there also have been a lot of very blessed times, and to be born in a country where you have enough money and food and a house, and you have everything. I've had everything that a child can wish for in one way, in terms of material wealth, and but then I also see it as a blessing. I've been to the Philippines every year. I went to the Philippines every year, and then saw a completely different life there. From my father's side, the family, some of them are very poor, like money-wise, financially, and don't have the same luxury that we have in the West. But I also saw that they were very happy in other ways, like with so much little, but they had a very deep connection with each other. A lot of love and family, quality time, and the children are they love children in Asia. So in that way I felt very loved and in Asia, and I always had a very strong connection to Asia. But then in Switzerland it was challenging, also being like brown hair, and look different than the general. I always felt a little bit like an outsider.
Was that hard to was it hard to find your place in between those two different sides, or did you identify with both, or with?
Yeah, I think that was the struggle.
Yeah.
To not that I identified with both.
Yeah.
But I was not completely either. I was not completely Swiss or completely Philippine, and so there definitely an identity crisis. Yes, which I know many people who have two different parents from different countries and then grow up in a different culture. That struggle is there, like that identity crisis, not knowing to where I belong or not feeling that we belong. And so, and my parents divorced when I was 3 years old.
Sorry, what happened now? Your parents divorced when you were 3 years old.
Yeah. And as I think most of us know that has a huge impact in a child's life. Nowadays, I think we are all aware of that, but back in the days, but I think there's still a lot of ignorance around that it does have a huge effect on a child. But also in those days, nobody knows how to be with that, or nobody talks about it. It's and also it's believed that the children don't they're anyway young and they don't understand what's happening. And so I remember that very clearly, like you're treated like that child that doesn't understand, but you do understand, and you want to be told and included in the process of what's happening, and so that's something that has been part of my healing journey since a long time. That separation. And then not so long after a few years, my father passed away. When I was rotate your phone.
Oh no, but it is.
It's the right one. No, it's okay.
Hello again. We had a little technical issue. The phone got overheated by the sun, so we needed to find our way to the shadows. So welcome back, and sorry for the interruption in this, and sorry for the interruption in your story. So you were saying that someone is coming.
Yeah.
Good. Welcome back. So you were talking about your time in India.
Yeah.
Maybe you need to tell again a little bit about So you found this book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I found this book, Siddhartha, and I read it, and like I said before, that I imitated Siddhartha in all that he was doing, fasting and being in Maunam, not speaking, and meditating. And so those were like the three main practices that he did: fasting, Maunam. Oh, and also not sleeping, actually. I think it was like not going to bed. So what I did, not having a teacher, I took it all literally. And then having had also this chardia, this bug that I picked up, I got very weak. My immune system collapsed, and my mind also collapsed. I think like the combination of coming to that country and then everything that happened in my childhood, that unresolved pain, and reading that book, coming to the spiritual practices without guidance, then really collapsed. I collapsed, and my mind had it couldn't differentiate anymore between what was my reality, like my subjective reality, what I'm experiencing, and what we are experiencing together. Like right now, we're having a shared reality. We're experiencing this together. We would say this. We're sitting here together and we're watching or talking here. And then there's also a lot happening inside of us. And so in that moment, I couldn't differentiate anymore what was happening outside here and what was happening inside. It all it all got mixed up.
Yeah.
And then everything that was written in that book, I thought it's becoming true. So it's a way to escape pain. Also, that happens a lot, that we take in these spiritual practices or teachings, but there's no solid foundation and no clear unfoldment. And then we take these examples literally, and then it talks about a light. And then we think, oh, there's really a light, and then I can beam light with my third eye onto somebody and illumine a person. And that's what I thought. I thought, I can look into your eyes, and I can illuminate you now. So I went around illuminating people.
That was like real to you then. That was your
For me it was really real. And I gave everything away, like everything that I was wearing, like clothes and my belongings. I gave them away to the poor people, and I thought, like, I don't need anything anymore. I'm now illuminated, and all I need is to be happy and sing and dance and just share love. So we call that a happy psychosis. It's a happy psychosis. There are also other types of psychosis where you have like horror scenarios where you see evil or death or different very scary visions, and where you're very frightened. And for me it was all happy ones, all for world peace and uniting the monkeys with the people and being Mother Teresa, and very funny. Not so funny for my parents.
How was the people in your surrounding reacting? How were you met
by the people there?
The people around?
I had a group of people with me, and as far as I know, at the beginning they kind of believed me. Like you go to India and everybody is on that little bit on that spiritual trip, and I think at the beginning they believed me. She's now really had like some spiritual awakening, and so they didn't do much. But then after a while, that's what they told me, what I remember, that I didn't come down, like I just wouldn't sleep, and I was just on this high all the time, and then I just disappeared, and they started to realize, oh, something is not well. Something is not good. She's not sleeping anymore, not eating. And then what my friend told, she said that they gave me some Valium, because usually Valium helps to calm you down and make you go to sleep. And then I think I slept and I woke up, but I was still high. So and then they called my I think they called my parents or the Swiss embassy, and then they put me into a hospital for 2 weeks in India. In a hospital to calm me down, because the mind, I was so out of myself. And they started to give me some medicine, and also to treat the chardia, the sickness that I had, the parasite. And then after 2 weeks I was ready to, strong enough to go back, and then a doctor and a nurse from Switzerland came to pick me up and bring me back to Switzerland. And then I was in a clinic for almost 3 months. And in a clinic where they give you lots of medicine, and the medicine just shuts you down, your whole system. Like you stop thinking, like your thoughts just start to stop, and it's very uncomfortable. Very, very uncomfortable.
Where was it? How was it to that time after, when you went back to Switzerland after it happened in India?
It was very hard. Hardest was, I think, for my parents, and for them not knowing what's going on, And of course also in Switzerland, if something like that happens, what do the people think? Like everybody, I think there's concern, but there is also judgments and there's shame, and how can that happen to your child? And so there was just a lot of shame and helplessness. Really a lot of helplessness. And people, you have some doctors that talk to you, but they also don't really know what to talk. I remember there was one woman, and I think she had some spiritual, I think she had gone to India, and she had some insights, like into more than just the psychological Western approach. She also had some value for Eastern teachings. So with her was like I felt there was some a real meeting from her side. She really met me as a person, and really trying to meet my heart and see what's going on in my heart. And but with all other doctors, I felt just like this person that is now is damaged and has a problem. And she went to India and is that kid that has a lot of issues. And so that was very hard. Not being able to just to feel met and talk. Even though my parents were very kind and very loving, but I think also very helpless. Very helpless. And in my heart was like, I knew that this was all too much. Like I knew now things went out of balance. But I also, one part of me knew there was also some truth to it. Like I knew something really told me, okay, this now is not balanced anymore, or something is not right. But also some of the teaching, like that we are one, that there is love, that in essence everything is okay. Some of this teaching I also knew that is real, that must be real. So I was convinced, or really, that I'm going to heal myself, because the doctor said I will never have a normal life anymore. That I will have to live on medicine the rest of my life. They started to give me lots of medicine, like I said before. And I remember I couldn't dance, I couldn't brush my teeth anymore. Like walking for half an hour was so difficult. And you don't want to wake up anymore, stand up. Everything is just so hard. And I remember the people in the clinic also. They are all amazing people, all so kind, talented people, like some artists, and everybody's just in need of love and being met and wanting to express themselves. But there's just no knowledge and no knowledge around. Or back then, just no knowledge of how to be with a situation like that. And what they do is give you medicine. A lot of medicine.
And we were talking about that a little bit yesterday also, that people, they kind of see the problem as you as the problem. So it's not easy to not believe in that maybe yourself, but you felt that you could like feel that you were something more, and you could go on the healing path after.
There was something in me, very, very strong, that said, I don't believe this. I don't believe that this is that my life is over now. Like you say, it's like you're damaged, and now you are this experience, and this happened to you, and it's just an infusion of fear. Like you will never have a normal life, and whatever you do, be careful. It could come back. Also the possibility of coming back. And so you are that now. But I don't know, something in me was really convinced and said, no, I don't believe this. I'm gonna find a way out of this. And I had no idea how in that moment. But I knew that I needed to get away from Switzerland. I think if I would have stayed in Switzerland and I would have followed the protocol
Yeah.
there,
What
then
they wanted
what
you
they
to
wanted
do.
me to
Yeah.
do, right? The only thing I really agree with is that one needs to have a routine
Yeah.
if something like that happens.
Mm.
Because the mind, you're so lost and so sensitive that everything becomes really overwhelming.
Mm.
And then to have a steady routine of good activities, and I had that in the clinic, like they give you lots of different
Mhm.
possible activities.
Mm.
That I think is very healthy,
Yeah.
to have different outlets.
Mm.
But I something in me felt like I need to get away from Switzerland, because there I will be stamped,
Yeah.
like I have this stamp, this happened to her, and then I am that.
Yeah.
And then with a blessing, a dear friend of mine, she was from South America, and she told me I could be with her parents, with her family, and if I want, I can go there.
Mm.
And 2 weeks later, I was on the plane to Venezuela.
Oh.
Yeah. And I had no idea really what I'm gonna do or how I'm gonna heal this. I
Yeah.
just knew I'm just gonna go there, and everything will unfold.
Yeah.
And so I think in one way or another, I did start to pray, maybe something in me
Mm.
that I did pick up from India,
Yeah.
to ask for help. And yeah, I don't think back then I had the words in that way, but now in retrospect I can see that I did ask for support and help. And when I came to Venezuela, I started to help in a foundation and reach out, do lots of social activities like charity work, and that helped me to engage myself into something that had purpose and meaning. And I started to do yoga. That's when my journey. And I stopped the medicine, like from one day to the other I stopped the medicine. That was also very scary, because they told you not to do that, because it can come back. And I'm not saying this that I recommend this to anybody.
Yeah.
I know it's different from person to person, from case to case. But in my case, it was like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you feel did you feel that the fear was going away more and more, or how were you in relationship with the fear that you had after the time?
Yeah, the fear was still very much there.
Yeah.
The fear was there, but I started to ask and read a lot of books, and I think through the yoga, because yoga started to give some meaning, even though I also asked the teachers if they know more about these things, but they couldn't really give me answers. But then I started to find some books, and not the yoga was the main thing that helped in that moment, and the activity. But the fear was there all the way through. Yeah, definitely. It was all the way through. And then what happened, I think a way to manage all of that, I started to have food disorder. Yeah. Like I think a way to control a situation, because I didn't really know how to deal with the fear. I knew, okay, I'm going to now work and do lots of good work. I knew in that moment I want to change my life. I don't want to live like I lived before, engaging in unhealthy relationships and alcohol and all the different ways that I before tried to numb myself. In that moment, I really decided I want to change my life. But of course, it takes time. So through the work and through the yoga, I had new healthy habits, but there was still a lot of pain, and I didn't have like anybody to really talk about these things. So in one way to manage the situation, I think when I started to with the food, like I started to have a lot of food disorder, and that was a way to put my attention somewhere. I know many women have that, where we either have compulsive overeating, or anorexia, or bulimia, and it's a way to control the situation. That all your focus goes into one topic, and then it's all about the food, and it's a way to control the day. And so that was, I was suffering from that very much. For me, it was more compulsive overeating, and so eating a lot and then binging, like not eating anymore, because I wasn't that came, but many women suffer also. I had that also, not liking my body and not being happy with my body and my self-image. And Venezuela is a country where it's all about looking good. They spend a lot of money in beauty products and beauty where you can go and beautify yourself. So it's all about the look, and they make their boobs bigger as soon as they're 18, and so it's very, in that way, very superficial. And so that was very tough.
But you had the yoga. Do you feel that was like good for that, or it also helped with being in a certain way, or
both?
Both.
No, the yoga in one way helped to also have an activity where it actually, yoga is about self-care, but then the yoga also has become such a compulsive behavior, where then the yoga is all only about the body, and it's always about making the body more beautiful and more flexible, and so then it had both sides to it. In one way where it helps you to take care of yourself and be strong and nourishing, but then there's also this other aspect where that was very challenging. You start to compare yourself with other people, how they do yoga, and who is better, doing the asana better. So, and I tried to talk also with the people about these things, but it was, at least from my side, I couldn't find that connection. I couldn't talk to anybody about these things, even though I really tried, what I remember. But it was still very physically oriented. And then I started to Google. I started to Google and search for help, like self-help and eating disorder and all of that. And then I found the 12-step program. The same 12-step program that is there for anonymous alcoholics. They have that also for eating disorder or drug addiction. You find that 12-step program for many disorders. And so that was like the first step into accepting. That's where the first time I met the Serenity Prayer. The serenity, may I have the serenity to accept all the facts that I cannot change. The strength and the courage to change what I can. The wisdom to know the difference between what I cannot change and what I can. So that's where I came the first time. And it's amazing that my teacher, Swami Dayananda, he also includes that in all his meditations.
So that was the thing that helped you come through with this.
The food disorder? No, it was just the beginning. It was the first time that I could talk about it. So the first time I didn't feel alone in that. And realizing, wow, there are so many who have food disorders. And it's so common. And that's what happens when we do the women's circle also. Like, you realize, wow, so many people have the same problem that I have, or even worse problem than I have. But so it was just the first time to find a group to talk about these things and not feeling ashamed for it. And then the interesting thing is, I told my sister, my mother about it also. And then I found out they also had it.
It's so common and so taboo to talk about and to share about. It's so important that we do so we can feel that we're not alone. As we often do when we grow up. Feel so alone in everything.
And so many girls are suffering from food disorder and not liking themselves, like not liking their bodies, and it's
it's huge.
it's so big. Yeah.
And also these other topics of the mental illness and death and loss. So important to talk about.
Yeah, exactly, because the loss is inevitable in life.
And then you came to Bali somehow after that.
After that, before I went to India, so after I was 5 years in Venezuela, and my heart always wanted to go back to India to find out what happened when I had this psychosis there. So before going to Bali, I went back to India, and I went to the same place where it happened. And I remember the day very much. I arrived there, and then there were some Indian people, and then they saw me like, "You're alive!" Like after 5 years, they remembered, and they were so happy to see me. Yeah, they were very happy to see me, and I was happy to see them and just say, "Look, I'm okay. I'm fine, and I'm here now to learn. Like I've done 5 years of yoga, and I knew that it was not a lot, but I felt stable enough to go back, and I really wanted answers because I was still full of fear that it could come back again. So I was always on, like, okay, I have to be careful here and here and here and here. Like if I don't have enough sleep, or if I would engage in anything that would disturb my mind, that it could come back. So I was on a mission to India to find out.
And what did you find?
What did I find? Well, I didn't find really answers at that time. I did find many different inspiring people who knew some things, but nobody could really. It was all vague, and also the books that I read, they talk about spiritual awakening and Kundalini awakening, and that these things can happen, and they did speak about that if these things happen and you're not grounded, then it can be dangerous and all of that. But it was still then also overemphasizing that experience, and so it didn't satisfy my answer or my search, not at all. And then with the yoga also, the yoga, I did, was many teachers there. I did Iyengar yoga and all kind of different yoga practices, but still it didn't satisfy that search either. And then what I found was one night I was about to leave, and then before leaving the next day I went to a temple dance festival, and there they had a temple dance, and I fell in love with that dance that night. I saw the dance, and it was it touched me so deeply. It was all a prayer, a prayerful dance, and I felt I can maybe find some answers there. There was so much meaning and expression in that dance and beauty, and then the next day I signed up for intensive course, and I stayed for almost a year, dancing every single day, and that was very healing in terms of just with my body, like that was part of the healing of my self-image. Of in the dance, you look at the body as your temple, and you take care of this body, and you dance the different goddesses, and you get to know the goddesses and what they represent. And so that was very healing in that way, to get in touch with the feminine side, just the fact that I'm a woman. But then still also there in the dance culture, again I was meeting a lot of insecurities and the jealousies between women, and who is a better dancer, and also a lot of competition. And then after a year I left India and I went to Bali. That's where then I came to Bali. Still searching. Still searching.
But do you feel like what you were looking for when you were a child, that you have found you closer, like
I was getting closer.
You're getting closer.
I was getting closer.
And what happened in Bali when you came to Bali? How did you end up there?
Well, I ended up in Bali. Thanks to my mother. I have to give thanks to my dear mother. When I was living in Venezuela, Venezuela at that time, it was really political, and still is, but really at the point of collapsing politically, and that's a whole other long story. But it became very dangerous, and my mother knew that I always wanted to live in Asia one day, and I knew Philippines, even though it's my country, but I didn't feel like wanting to live there. And India, I felt that's too much to really live there. And so Bali, I heard of Bali, and my mom saw an advertisement of, they were looking for somebody to take care of their resort, of a small yoga, holistic resort, bungalow resort. And my partner then and I, he was a yoga teacher, and me too, or I had the dance, and my background is in hotel management. She put me in touch with this woman who was looking for somebody to take care of their resort. And then for 1 year I was in touch with the woman, and I said, when I'm in India, I will come to Bali and visit you and see if we find a connection. And the day I stepped my foot on Bali, I knew it was magical. It was a very tiny airport back then. Now it's a very big airport. And this woman, she was there at the airport waving at me, and we had an immediate and nice connection, and she brought me up to the north of Bali, I fell in love with Bali. I feel like love at first sight. I knew I'm gonna stay here. Still then also I knew it was the same culture like in India, a Vedic culture, and they love art and dance and music, and it's that place for spirituality. So I thought maybe here I will find answers. And I did after a while. It didn't work out, and like after a while we left that place in the north, and we moved to Ubud. And then in Ubud I was also searching, but I still couldn't really find answers. So I just started to dance and teach this dance that I learned in India to Balinese girls and boys, and in an ashram there. And for 3 months we danced in every possible temple in Bali, just offering this dance. And the Balinese people love it because it's their dance and their culture comes from India. So whatever comes from India is very highly revered, and they appreciate it very much. And then the last dance, I remember, we even went to Malaysia with that group to dance. And then the last time I danced, I made a prayer. I said, this prayer, I offer it. And please, if you're out there, if there is an answer to this human suffering, please show up. And not long after then I came to my teacher, to my Vedanta teacher. And then the search was over. That's when he said that you're whole and complete. Here and now. I could tell him about my experience of my psychosis. The food disorder was still there, but then with coming to the teaching, and he looked at me and could see that this experience that I've had, and he said, look, it's just an experience like any other experience, and you are not your experiences. I am not my experiences. The experiences, they come and they go, but they are not me. I'm not defined by them. And he never looked at me as labeled or stamped, or you're this psychotic person or this abandoned person, or he always looked at me as a whole and complete person, and was ready to show me that. That's when the search was really over. And then I also, that moment, I felt like all that fear that I had with me since that very first time I had the psychosis. It happened once or twice afterwards. in Bali actually, but it was not to a degree where I couldn't function anymore. I was still able to function, and I was aware, okay, now it's happening, but the yoga and the pranayama, it helped me to stay grounded. Yeah. And then with the teaching, because then finally I had a teacher who could really unfold what I was reading back then in Siddhartha, like telling me, look, you don't take this literally. Like if you talk about the light, it's not an actual light. It's all a metaphor. It's a teaching methodology. You fast, but you don't fast too long. Yes, you can do maunam, but then what do you do when you are in silence? So it was all guided step by step by step by step, and all the way. And really emphasize, making emphasis to taking care of your wounds also. Like he said, you can't bypass your heart. You have to heal what has happened to you as a little girl. And you can't bypass that. You can't understand this teaching if you bypass the heart. So you have to heal those wounds, that abandonment and the loss. And the beauty of the Vedic tradition is that the Vedic tradition has a structure to help us heal, and sanctify those losses. Make a ceremony out of those losses, all those transitions in life, to be with them in a prayerful way. So that the tradition helps us, human beings, to make up or to be with all the life events, and then the teaching can really be assimilated and understood. Because if the vessel, if we come too early to this teaching, or not ready, or not in the right condition, and you hear these kind of things, your mind just collapses. Like it's too much. So it's very important to have a teacher and properly being guided.
Exactly. Because there is so much out there to take in, and But can you feel that all these experiences that you had in life really led you through the healing, or to where you are now? Like you can see can you see it from different sides?
I just look at it as a great blessing. All these events, I look at them as a great blessing. And sometimes maybe it's like, even now, I mean, one part of me, when I say this now, of course, one part of me is like, oh, that my father had to pass away so early. Of course, my emotional being is like, how can that be a blessing? But then me, as now the adult person and who understands, I wouldn't have the empathy that I have. I feel like all these life events really make me who I am today, and to be able to feel so deeply and have empathy with other people. And that is the greatest blessing. I can teach this teaching, but if I wouldn't have had any life events that would have been challenging, then I wouldn't be the same teacher. I maybe still be a good teacher or not, I don't know. But now I can really meet people where they are at, and understand if you've gone through something difficult in your life, and really have compassion and understanding and empathy for that, rather than just like, oh, but all of this doesn't matter, and just get this teaching and you're whole and complete, and everything that has happened doesn't matter anymore because it's past. That's how we look at it a lot, like in the West. Even in the East also, it's like, oh, this happened 30 years ago, so why are you not over that? Like, it's not happening now. You lost your father 29 years ago, so why are you still grieving that? So somebody who hasn't gone through that can't understand that. But if you have gone through these kind of things, then you understand the other person. And it's that understanding, I feel, that makes you feel loved and really can ultimately heal. When you feel understood. That's what the emotional being needs, is to be understood. And I know all my teachers, they've gone through many difficult phases in their life, and that they have so much love and understanding and compassion. I do look at all these events now as part of my karma, the things that I had to exhaust or have to exhaust in this life.
I feel that you can really feel that from you. One can really feel that, even if we don't know what has happened, even when we don't know what has happened, it's so easy to feel this empathy from you. That you know what you talk about. I just have to look at the time for. Thank you so much, Sharada, for sharing these topics that is so not spoken about, and I feel it's so brave also for you as a teacher to share. I think maybe not all teachers dare to share so openly from their life challenges, and I know that is the beauty of the Devi circles also, that you hold, that you also share, and it can go very deep for everyone. So thank you for giving from your heart and for blessing all with that.